So it has been 3 years since my ACL surgery, and a lot of you guys are wondering, how is my knee feeling now? Can I play sports full out? Does my knee ever hurt still? And does it feel like my knee is back to 100%? So today I'm gonna go ahead and answer all those questions about how my knee is feeling 3 years post ACL surgery. But before I dive into that, I wanna talk about today's sponsor, Freak Athlete, whose equipment has been a huge part of my ACL recovery process. Freak Athlete has been creating some of the highest quality equipment out there on the market for those of us that not only are doing the ATG style training, but also just want to improve our joint health and just perform better as athletes. Whether you're an athlete or not, Freak Athlete has a piece of equipment that I'm confident will change how you move and feel for the better. Some of their trademark pieces, such as the Nordic Mini and the Triflexor, have helped me to drastically improve my knee pain and continue all of my ATG style training from the comfort of my own home, or even at the gym too, as a lot of their equipment is modular and can be broken down really easily and tucked into your gym bag and brought with you to the gym. And the folks at Freak Athlete believe in their products so much that they even have a lifetime warranty and a 100-day money-back guarantee. So if you're looking to get out of pain and become a Freak Athlete yourself, I highly recommend you guys checking out their equipment. You absolutely won't regret it. And if you click the link below in my description and use code Victoria10 at checkout, you will get 10% off your entire purchase. Again, that's discount code Victoria10 at checkout. And thanks again to Freak Athlete for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so the first question I get asked a ton is, can I play sports full out 3 years after ACL surgery? And the answer is yes, but there are some caveats to it. So when I am playing a sport, let's say like volleyball or tennis or basketball, and I'm going all out, I have no issue with cutting, with pivoting, with moving really well on the court. I feel pretty much fine doing all that, all the power movements. It's when I've been playing that sport for a certain duration of time, let's say like past an hour and a half, 2 hours at my all out capacity, that's when I start to feel a little kind of iffy in my knee. Now, for every person, this might be different, or this might not even happen to them. But for me, and this is again all personal to me and how my knee starts to feel, I'll start to feel like almost like it gets a little swollen. It's not actually swollen, that you can't see any swelling. I still have full mobility, but it starts to feel like there's fluid in the knee in some capacity, where it starts to feel just heavy. If you've had ACL surgery already, you kind of know what that feeling feels like when your knee just feels like a little heavy and kind of like puffy, I guess, a little swollen. That's what I start to feel. It starts to feel a little like, something feels a little off. I'm not sure what it is. It's not achy, it's not painful. It just feels like there's fluid in the knee, like it's floaty and puffy. That's the best way I can describe it. So again, it doesn't necessarily limit my performance. It's just kind of something I'm aware of when I'm playing after a certain amount of time, that I start to get that sensation. Now that not only goes for if I'm playing a sport full out, but if I'm walking too. For example, the other day I was walking, probably about 4 miles, and about like that 3.5 mile mark, my knee started to feel a little kind of swollen again. It's not physically swollen when I look at it, when I move it, but it has like a certain sensation of swelling where it might be a little irritated. So it just seems to happen after a certain duration of time. It's nothing where it seems to really, truly limit a large degree of my performance yet, but it is something that I stay aware of when I am feeling it. So if you are an athlete and you're trying to get back to your sport full out, just be aware of that. Be in touch with your body. I think that's one of the most important things as you're recovering through the ACL process in the early stages, and even through the late stages and years after your ACL surgery, is always having that mind-body connection and just being aware of how your body is feeling. That is so important. And even if you're not injured and you're an athlete, you should be doing that anyways. That's why I'm a huge proponent of, if I'm doing like a movement that's new in the gym or a very complex lift, I usually will take my music out. If I'm listening to music, take my headphones out and really pay attention to the mechanics of my body, because it's so important. So just a note there. Okay, so another question I get asked really frequently is what graft I got, and because of the graft that I chose, do I feel any pain or discomfort when I'm kneeling? And that's because I got the patellar graft. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the patellar graft, patellar tendon gets kind of taken. They end up taking a little bone plug out of the kneecap itself and a little bone plug out of the tibia, and they take a nice big middle piece of your patellar tendon. Sorry if that grosses anybody out, but that's how it works. So because they took my own graft from my patellar tendon, there's a nice big piece of scar tissue that goes across the front of the knee. It's a very common ACL scar. If you've seen ACL surgeries before, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Not everybody has them. There's obviously different types of grafts that other people elect to have, but that is the particular one I have. And a lot of people ask me, is it uncomfortable to kneel on it, even multiple years after surgery? And here's what I'll say. Any kind of scar tissue is generally a little weird to put pressure on, especially if it's your full body weight, and especially if it's deep scar tissue. So is it painful? No, I wouldn't describe it as a sensation of pain. I'd describe it as like just a strange feeling, kind of like a numb, tingling, weird kind of sensation. It's not super painful. It's not super uncomfortable. It's just like a weird, different sensation. So does it limit my ability to kneel? No, not really. But here's what I will say that helped a lot to help with that scar tissue is just cross massaging that scar early on in the rehab process. So if you did get, your patellar tendon taken out and used for the graft, that scar remaining there, definitely desensitize it because it does get sensitive in the beginning, and you want to kind of rub into the tissue, desensitize it, get that new tissue that's forming used to the sensation of touch, so it's not as sensitive. So I think that's what helped me a lot in being able to kneel more comfortably. So yeah, I wouldn't say that kneeling was an issue at all for me. It was actually something that I really tried to do often and get that scar tissue a little desensitized to it, again, with the massage and with doing some kneeling exercises. And I definitely incorporated some kneeling exercises early on in the process of ACL recovery, like using my Nordic Mini from Freak Athlete to really work the hamstrings and really make sure that I'm getting all of my legs strong again to prevent any other ACL injuries in the future. So another question I get asked a ton is, does my knee ever hurt? And, I already talked about how my knee can start to feel a little uncomfortable a little bit, after playing for a certain amount of time if I'm playing a sport all out. But as far as like pain goes, do I ever feel like actual pain like I did early on in the rehab process, now 3 years after ACL surgery? And the answer is yes, a little bit, but I will tell you why. So this is something that not everybody has after their ACL surgery, and I had some unique circumstances that factor into why I might have some of this residual pain occasionally. Again, most days I don't have any pain. There are some times when I do. I did break my kneecap 14 days after my surgery. It was not a great situation. If you're curious about why that happened, I could do a whole nother video on that, but I already talked a little bit about it in my first ACL video. And then I started to develop something called Hoffa's fat pad syndrome, or Hoffa's fat pad impingement. If you don't know knee anatomy, there's a fat pad that's in there, and it can get inflamed, especially after ACL surgery, because usually they put the scope right through the fat pad in the knee, and it can cause some scarring and inflammation in that fat pad. And when the fat pad gets annoyed, it swells, and when you extend and straighten your knee, it gets smushed in between your tibia and your femur, and it just pinches, and it's a very, very innervated part of the knee, so it causes some pain. So for me, I will very occasionally get Hoffa's fat pad impingement. I'm not sure if that's just from the ACL surgery and having the scope through it. I'm not sure if that's from the kneecap fracture and having some irritation from having my kneecap fractured and then growing back together and all that. So I'm not sure exactly why. I have gotten some people reaching out to me with very similar symptoms that point to Hoffa's fat pad impingement. So I think it is more common than other people know about. But basically what I do, is take a few days off, or I'll go back to the basics of, my ACL recovery. I'll use my multi-sled from Freak Athlete and just do some sled pulls backwards and just really take it easy. Get back to some easy movements, ice, rest the knee, that sort of stuff. But for me, that type of pain really only sets in after I've overworked my knee. And not only overworked my knee in a single day, but if I've had multiple days where I've really pushed my body hard, where I've really started to do high impact activity back to back to back with little rest or recovery in between, which you really shouldn't do anyways, that's when I'll start to get this Hoffa's fat pad impingement. I'll take it easy for a few days, do my backward sled pulls, do some of the basics, and then it gets back to normal. So again, my day-to-day doesn't involve pain in my knee. Most days there's zero pain whatsoever, but I will have some of those pinchy feelings come up when I have the impingement, and that's just from overuse. Okay, so next question I get a lot about where I'm at, 3 years after my ACL surgery is when in that time span did I return to playing a sport? And you guys, I'm gonna answer this very carefully because this journey is so unique to every individual and how their body heals and what's going on. But for me, I was probably ready to start doing a sport around that 9 to 12 month point. I personally made the decision not to engage in playing my sport, playing volleyball, playing tennis, or anything like that was gonna require a lot of pivoting until at minimum 12 months post-op. So I wanted to wait at least a year. There's a lot of data that says that that's typically going to be your best bet. If you do want to engage early in a sport, is to wait at least until 12 months. There's even more data supporting that 2 years is an optimal point. However, people like you and me, if you're watching this, if you're an athlete, you want to get back out there, you want to start engaging in your sport in some capacity, just because you just want to, whether you are on a team and they're waiting for you, or you just are an elder athlete like myself who's, not in college or anything like that, but just really wants to re-engage in a sport that brings them joy. Totally get it. So I really waited until that 12-month mark to start playing volleyball again. Now, even beyond that, I wasn't even playing full out at the 12-month mark. I was very cautious. I even had a sport ACL brace, which I highly recommend if you haven't talked to your doctor about getting a sport ACL brace. It's a shorter version of that really long one you end up walking out with when you do the surgery. And it just kind of helps to stabilize the knee and prevent any kind of sudden rotational movements that your knee might not be ready for. Helps protect the ACL and all that good stuff. So I probably didn't go all out until maybe a year and a half post-op. And, even then had to make sure I iced my knee afterwards, took care of it, recovered, all that good stuff. And it really wasn't until the 2-year mark where I was totally not thinking about it during my sport and just kind of going about whatever I was doing. But again, this is a very personal journey. I totally understand if your doctor clears you sooner and you want to take the chance and just dive into your sport a little bit sooner and do so with precautions and making sure you're recovering after playing properly and all that. I totally get it. But I took my time. I wanted to make sure this wasn't going to be something where I was going to risk re-tearing it again. So I really did wait until that 1 year to start, 1.5 to go a little bit more all out, and then 2 years to really just not even think about it when I'm playing. Okay, so the last and final question, which you probably can guess the answer to based on some of my previous answers, is my knee back at 100%? The answer is unfortunately not 100%, but I would say it's pretty darn close. Most days, let's say 8 out of 10 days, I completely forget that I've had ACL surgery. And those 2 out of 10 days are usually days that I've overworked it, I've done an activity too long, or, maybe look down at my scar and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I had that. You have to take into consideration your knee biomechanically changed. Literally a tendon from another place in your body or someone else's body got reinserted, reattached, and your body had to send signals to make that a new ligament, which is pretty darn cool. But it makes sense that it's not going to be 100% and feel like your virgin knee that hasn't had any injuries whatsoever. But I'd say getting close to 95%, that's great, I'll take it. So if you're someone who's in the beginning stages of ACL surgery, or maybe in that midpoint and you're like, man, I don't know when the pain is gonna stop. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get to where I wanna go. Or maybe you're even considering ACL surgery, you haven't gotten it yet and you're holding off because you're not sure if you can get back to a level of sport or a level of activity that you'd like to be at comfortably. Let me tell you, you can get there. You can get pretty darn close back to 100%. You just have to be patient, stick to your rehab, make sure you continue to do preventative exercises. I've used a lot of Freak Athletes equipment to do that and continue to work that into my day-to-day workout regimen. And it's been so great, highly recommend it. And of course, I'll put all the information down below in the description for their equipment. I cannot stress enough how much it is important for you guys to hold on to that hope and to really work through some of those mental blocks that you might have around feeling like you can't get there, because you definitely can. So you guys, if you felt like this video was helpful, gave you some hope, gave you some perspective, maybe some things to look forward to as you go through the ACL recovery process, definitely give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate everybody that's subscribed so far, and I continue to make, videos on my ACL update, my ACL recovery process, things about health and fitness in general. So please like, comment, subscribe, all the good YouTube things. I so appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.